These sculptures are abstract, organic forms that spring from industrial images yet grow with a life of their own. Totem-like, they connect with the earth and reach for the sky. They bring together the strange and the familiar, asking us to focus on texture and shape in new ways. On this edition of Art Now, we'll look at the work of Roger Blakley and Cecilia Allen.
Hi, welcome to Arts Now, a program where we talk to artists whose work is part of our community. I'm Pat Salmon, and I'll be your host. Our guests today are Roger Blakley and Cecilia Allen, both of whom are sculptors. Roger and Cecilia have been married for over 14 years, and they have created works both individually and collaboratively. Roger is a professor emeritus from the University of Illinois, and Cecilia has an MFA in sculpture from Southern Illinois University, and has taught at both the University of Illinois and Parkland. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting us into your studio. I think it's great that we can be here. I'd like to start at the beginning. I'd like to hear how each of you got interested in being an artist.
Go ahead. Oh, I think most artists are born that way. Yeah, it was always what was interesting. I mean, we grew up Catholic, both of us, and. Yeah, you're looking through this religious stuff because that's where the Michelangelos and the
right.
And all of that great Renaissance stuff is always illustrated in these beautiful color things.
Yeah.
So that was my interest in religion, was the artwork. But
yeah, that's all right. Roger, how about you?
Well, in high school I was called Michelangelo.
Oh yeah.
Because I was carving. But I've always had a propensity for things that were three-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And I started carving. There was a fellow that wanted to teach whittling.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a group of boys, 10.
Yeah.
And, well, to get out of the house when you're 12 years old, yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
So that's what started me into working three-dimensionally.
Okay.
I remember all through my undergraduate or my elementary school, when someone was chosen to do something, for Christmas or the holidays, I never was.
Oh.
And I was.
Really?
No, I never was.
That's disappointing.
I don't
You were
think
lucky.
nuns liked me.
I always got fingered.
But I've been, ever since, I have a long career of making three-dimensional art.
That's great. So you kind of knew at the age of 12 almost that.
Well, it was just natural.
Right.
When you, it ended up, I had a little studio in the basement of the home that we had.
Yeah.
And I've had studios all over the place. Sometimes they were in the bedroom.
Yeah.
When Ruby was alive and I was doing my graduate work at Kent State, I would work in the bedroom with wax, so you can work pretty quiet. And Ruby would be sound asleep. And then she'd wake up and she said, "Well, what time is it?" And I know what time it is. Oh, it's about 11 o'clock. By the time I got to 3 o'clock, I thought, well, maybe I better go to bed.
Right.
But she could sleep through me working.
Right.
So the studio that we have here is just a blessing, a real blessing.
Sure.
Two parts of it were, this part was added after Seal and I got together. Before we got married, we added this on.
Yeah.
And now we spend a lot of time out here.
That's great. Yeah, a little bit farther in the interview, we'll take a look and see what's here.
Good.
How did your careers lead you to Champaign-Urbana?
I was teaching at Kent State in I was faculty member. I worked in the outlying programs. I taught at East Liverpool Branch. And then the event of 1970 occurred, and I had a very hard time dealing with it. We were living in West Virginia,
Yeah.
3 kids in a trailer.
Mhm.
And I said, I went to main campus and told the head of the art department, I quit, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And he said, don't quit, we'll bring you to main campus.
Mhm.
And you can teach 1 course at a branch and teach sculpture on the main campus.
Mhm.
So that occurred, and then one day in 1971, I was casting bronze. My wife was at home, and they called from here
Mhm.
and said, can we talk to Roger? No, he's casting bronze today. Oh. And do you think he'd be interested in teaching at the University of Illinois?
Mhm.
And Ruby said, yes, he would.
So she decided for you.
Well,
She left skid marks.
my
Get
deceased
me
wife
outta here.
and my present wife know me very well.
I see.
It's a good thing. And once we got here, we've been here since 1971.
Yeah? Cecile?
Well, I'm from around here. I grew up in Tuscola.
Yeah.
So and then I went to Parker College, and I wanted to be in graphic design, and like everybody does, because you think you're going to make a living at it, and you had to take a lot of fine art courses. So I took a lot. I took everything they had, and to me, art was always 2D. Yeah, it was painting, it was drawing, it was.
Yeah.
But then I took a 3D design class and a sculpture class, and visiting artists, and whoa, I can do this. It was fun, power tools, and so
She likes
Very
power
cool.
tools.
Great.
I'm pretty good with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the two of you have several sculptures in Champaign-Urbana that our viewers are probably going to recognize. Why don't we just take a quick look at a few of those? We have Prairie Boy, which was yours, Cecilia?
Yes.
Concatenation.
Now, this is a collaboration between Seal and I.
Right, and that's on campus. Southern Passage, which is in Meadowbrook Park.
This is another collaborative.
Right. I guess you've talked about this a little bit, but I was going to ask why you were attracted to sculpture in particular as opposed to other kinds of drawing or other forms of art.
But sculptors like making things, and then
Okay.
and sculptors tend to like fire a lot too.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to grad school, and then there were 15 graduate sculptors that I worked with, and we had some nice fires. I mean, so much dimensional stuff is done with fire.
Yeah.
The foundry, ceramics. Fire is just part of it, and
Yeah.
that's just a correlation, I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's also 360 lines.
360
every-
pieces, yeah.
Every time you move a piece, it can give you an opportunity to see something that you don't see until you get to it.
Right.
So walking around the piece is extremely important. Or drawings, I love drawing.
We went to Washington D.C. a few years ago, and we went to the Hirshhorn Museum.
Uh-huh.
And when you're in college and you see sculpture,
On slides.
it's always it's up on a screen, and they always show one view.
Right.
So
Right.
we're at the Hirshhorn, and we're looking at these bar locks and the Bracusis, and you can walk all the way around it. There's not just this one view.
Right.
There's all these views. And it's,
Right.
whoa, look at the back! Isn't that really cool?
Yeah.
That's what's
Yeah.
so
Oh no,
nice.
that's something I love about sculpture.
Yeah.
That you can walk around. That's what I always do.
That's what's so nice about Meadowbrook Park. It's unusual because in a museum people are more tentative,
Right.
but here in a natural
Not me.
setting, nature and sculpture always go well together.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. And of course, the bronze in particular, you chose for sculpture because, again, you like playing with fire? Or
Well, my early work was fabricated steel. My dad was an industrial contractor.
Oh, okay.
And I grew up with all the welding guys. Oh, don't look at that light, little girl. And
She's a very good welder.
so
Oh, great.
so I all my undergraduate work was fabricated steel, and then
Okay.
and then I wanted to get more organic than I was capable of doing with fabricating steel. And so I got in. I had worked in the foundry. I knew the process. I wasn't interested in it, but as the aesthetic need to become more organic came along, and then okay, well let's do bronze.
Yeah. Okay. Anything you want to add, Roger?
I think it's covered pretty well.
Or? Okay, great. One of the things I wanted to show, you had someone, I don't know if it was you or someone did this for you, but documenting the process of making one of Cecilia's pieces, Ibidem, which is installed next to the Urbana Public Library. I'd like to share with our viewers just a few steps in this process. The document itself is very long, but so I've just taken a few steps from this so we can see it.
I took the images.
Oh, you took the images,
And
okay.
when, the magic of a camera where you can put it on pause and then on the timer.
Right.
So you can get in to the piece too. So if I'm
Right.
in there, it's basically because if
Okay.
I'm in there.
Right.
He was very thorough and he was very persistent,
this,
and I'm
Right.
glad we've got it. But there are times you might see it in some of them. That picture just goes, take the picture.
Anyway, I'm just running through this real quickly so people can kind of see the progress as it goes along. If you want to say anything particular as you see these, let me know.
Well, this is a basic underlying form, it's foam. So Seal roughly created that foam, and then the green that you see is plastiline, which is oil-based clay.
Okay.
Now,
One thing, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. One thing that struck me was how painstaking this was because you had to mold each one of those letters.
no, we
Yeah, we had to make them.
Well,
bought
yeah,
the
you had to-
letters in plastic,
Okay,
and then we figured out how many of what letters, so we didn't have to buy the whole alphabet.
Okay.
No, we did buy the whole alphabet,
Did we?
but the letters were like $1.15 a piece. Well, it was going to cost me $700.
Sculptors.
I don't think so.
So we made a rubber mold,
uh-huh.
and so we could paint wax into the rubber mold and then
Right.
pop it out.
Right.
Because we can recover the wax and reuse it. The plastic would just be vaporized and
Right.
goes out.
And-
You can't be totally necessarily environmentally
Sound, yeah.
sound on everything, but we try to minimize whatever we
Yeah.
can.
But once we're ready with the form, we then make a flexible rubber mold, and with a plaster backup jacket. That's what we see here. And then that's removed, and then we spray a separator into the plaster mold, so the wax doesn't stick to it,
Okay,
and then we can paint wax into it.
right. I was amazed at how much hard work there was to this.
Yeah, it's
It's gratifying work. Now, that with doing the large pieces, you spend 6, 7, 8 months on a large piece,
Yeah.
and it's gratifying work. But after a while, you spend 7 or 8 months on one idea.
Right.
You start getting a little hinky, and
Right.
and you have all these other ideas. Well, it's kind of a
now this is where, excuse me,
Still process.
this is where the investment is being poured into a cylinder, and you'll see a finished mold. It's plaster, sand, and vermiculite mixed with water.
Right.
So once it's invested with the cup down, then it's put in a kiln and burned out at 1,000 degrees for approximately 3 days.
Right.
Now this is at ISU, and the process of melting the bronze up to 2,000 degrees or 2,100, and then the pouring process, which is very, very exciting. And once the piece is poured, then the investment mold is removed. So you can start seeing the top of Ibidem.
Right.
that piece was cast again in 4 pieces, and
Yeah,
So then you
Welded
were
together.
welding them together.
right. It's seal welding. It's very good. Like I said before, she's a good welder.
Yeah.
that's because
That's
he
how I
needs me
did
to
it with
weld
my
his. Yeah.
welding.
Right.
So you can kind of see a weld mark along the bottom there.
Right.
But it's been ground and cleaned up, and now she's sandblasting it
Right.
to make the surface all
More uniform.
uniform.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's
then
the finished
sulfurated
piece.
potash is sprayed on the clean bronze. That's how you get the dark brown color.
Ah, okay.
It was fun to work with the people at the Urbana Library.
Yeah.
Was it?
Neat bunch of people.
Great. Very good. Okay.
It's so nice to see them doing art for around the,
Yes,
they've got several
absolutely.
pieces there now.
Yeah. Obviously, though, working in bronze means that you're always going to have some people helping you, I think, because it's just such a huge
You
task.
better have friends.
Yeah, you better have friends. But also some of the works you've done have intentionally been collaborative. How do you two work together on a project that's collaborative?
There isn't no gnashing of teeth. Generally, we just start by conversing. We
Pointed
don't start with
remarks every
drawings.
once in a while.
Okay.
Pointed remarks every once in a while.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
At least you didn't say gnashing.
That's right.
We just start with kind of a general talking about what we're doing, and we start making small pieces of wax,
Okay.
and then contributing them back and forth.
Mhm.
And eventually, it leads up to where this piece, this is the maquette, you know, the model. This piece has the texture that Seal used in other pieces that we'll see later. So she had at least that kind of form to think about, and how do you integrate it in. So now it's integrated into the whole piece. We'll see from the top to down on the bottom too.
Okay.
So it's just, sometimes we end up making 4 or 5 maquettes in wax. And sometimes we cast in bronze only 1.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes we like all
Oh, yeah.
4 of them, so we cast them in bronze, and then we see an actual bronze
Right.
to decide upon.
Right. Okay. I know recently you've started to do some collaborations in drawing rather than the sculpture, and I think, Cecilia, you were kind of saying that it is a lot of time-consuming work to do a bronze piece. I know in your artist statement you were saying that you may be moving toward drawing as a response to the fact that you can do it a little more quickly.
Yeah, it's the mark making. You can go through so many ideas. I mean, you can go, you know, in one session in the studio, you can go through dozens of ideas and then decide which ones of those you want to really mine for other ideas.
Right.
Whether, like I said, rather than spending 7 months on one piece. So he was getting interested in doing the drawing and kind of looking around. And so I got this idea to do this from the Surrealists.
Right.
Marcel Duchamp is one of my favorites, and it's
Okay.
that was the first one we did, and that's colored pencil and graphite and silver leaf. That square on the upper right is silver leaf, and I didn't like the deal is we call it the exquisite square.
Okay. Yeah, why don't you explain the premise?
Okay.
Yeah.
And it comes from the old Surrealist parlor game of the exquisite corpse, where they would take, somebody would draw a head, and they'd fold the piece of paper and leave 2 marks, and then somebody would draw the body and fold the piece of paper and leave 2 marks, and then somebody would draw the legs.
Yeah.
There was just 2 of us, so we're doing it this way, and we talked about it. Do I leave marks where we're just doing a square? I'm doing 1/2. And do you want me to leave marks where you know it intersects that?
So these are done in a similar way. In other words,
Yes.
you do part of it,
I
and
do
then
one half,
Roger does the other
I
half.
don't, once she gets her part done, I don't see any marks at all. Because
okay.
she
Covered up.
covers it. And
Oh,
I
so
don't
it's
see-
completely
I
covered,
don't
so it's
see
blind.
Completely covered.
Yeah.
So then I make my drawing.
Yeah.
And the first one I don't
That
know which one it was. This one,
Yeah.
I'm second. And I like the fact that something is there. I
Yeah.
like that progression.
Yeah.
So I did my drawing, and I really didn't think it was very good. I really didn't like it. And I didn't peek, and I waited until Seal was, I
Steve
think she
thinks
was
you
sleeping
did.
when I did mine.
Yeah.
But the next day, when we uncovered it, Seal told me that she had not liked hers.
Oh,
When we saw the 2 of them together, it was just...
it worked.
Yeah,
This is fun.
It's great.
It's
great.
We have done, what, 8 now?
8 or 9 of them. Yeah.
8 or 9.
Okay.
We haven't thrown out one yet.
That's great. We've got a few more here.
Most of these right now are up at the Black Dog.
Right. So people can go and see them there if they want to take a look.
And get some good food at it too.
Absolutely.
Now, we're going to keep on that collab. It's so much fun, and it's so fast.
Yeah,
You know,
it's got to be in
You're
comparison.
only working with half the drawing, so you don't have to worry about concepts.
Because you can always blame me if it stinks.
Oh my.
I would too.
Really.
Since we're in your studio, I'd like to just give viewers a chance to see what it's like in here. And particularly at the new pieces that you have, Roger, up on the wall, if you'd like to talk a little bit about these, because they were kind of different direction than the larger sculptures that you've done before.
Yeah, the large pieces sometimes take a year to do.
Mm-hmm.
These are pretty expedient.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are, I started working with forms out of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And also, well, tomatoes, and
Mm-hmm.
so I can take a plaster mold, partial mold off of something.
You go to
Like a
Toys
rubber
R Us
ball.
and pick up
Yeah.
rubber
Texture.
balls and
Yeah.
So this is
Rocks.
a combination of, all kinds of forms that I
Mhm.
put together.
Yeah.
And I had painted pieces years ago, and I just wanted to make these pieces so vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, the colors are really striking.
Well, I looked up I talked to friends that
Mhm.
had hot rods
Mhm.
and said, who paints your hot rod? I really like the colors.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, Greg Stallmeyer,
Stallmeyer.
I took sculpture with him
it's a
at
small
Blakley.
world,
Okay.
small town.
And it turns out that he is now a really, really good hot rod painter.
Ah, okay.
And a lot of
So
fun.
I
Yeah.
called him up,
Yeah.
and he came out here, and I had 5 pieces or 6 pieces.
Mhm.
And I said, I'll tell you what, you take these
Mhm.
to your place of work,
Mm-hmm.
your shop,
Mm-hmm.
and paint them any color you want.
Yeah,
Except black.
Except black.
right.
Black eats up form.
Yes.
Yeah. So he said, I don't know if I could do that. And he said, well, it would be about 3 weeks.
Mhm.
In 3 days,
Mhm.
he called me,
Yeah.
and he was
They're done. They're clear coated.
unbelievably excited.
That's great.
And to
That's
go out
great.
there and then see them, it contributed to what I did more and more.
Right.
So I've got quite a few that are, I haven't had any, in the last year or so, I haven't had any painted.
Yeah.
I'm using just patinas,
Okay.
oxidate, that I
Okay.
can oxidize
Right.
the surfaces.
Right.
And I'm working even smaller.
Wow. Well, we'll look forward to that.
The City of Urbana's UPTV, Urbana Public Television, your government at work, with live coverage of city meetings, educational programming, and community announcements. Urbana Public Television, let your voice be heard, with locally produced public access shows on a variety of topics produced by community members and organizations. It's UPTV, the City of Urbana's public, education, and government access TV station.
Roger and Cecilia have actually a sculpture garden right outside their home, and so that's where we are now. We're going to look at a few of their pieces. This one is by Cecilia, and it's called Vestigial Topographics.
Topography is actually.
I'm sorry. My fault.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about it?
This is one of my absolute favorite pieces. The textures on this derive from the ground planes of studios that I've worked in.
Mm-hmm.
Studios.
Old studios.
Like
And,
concrete.
and the art department often, especially the sculpture department, often gets put in pretty beat up venues.
Right.
And so all of these came from the floors that have been worked and toiled and sweated over.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 4 coarse textures in here.
Mm-hmm.
I would just take the wax and put it directly on the floor, and
Mm-hmm.
I would pull it up, and so what I would get would be like a topography, a
Yeah.
dimensional map
Right.
of growth and development.
Mhm.
And so there are 4 coarse textures, and there are 4 smoother textures, and the smoother textures have these are drains, floor drains. These are the
Oh, okay.
connections to floor drains, which
Okay.
I find kind of a poetic thing. And so these are these are more, they face inwards, and they're about the interior, and these coarser ones face outwards, and it's about the exterior. And it's just a great textural contrast to the hyperbola that they're attached to.
We have an interesting time always, because I told Seal, you can't do that.
Oh.
And we had an argument about it. She said, watch me. And she did.
And she did.
That's right.
I said, you'll never get it off the concrete. You won't get it out of all those crevices.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah, it
worked
did.
so well that on Consonant Passage, which is toward our back, areas of that have planes on it of the kind of texture she has here.
Oh, okay.
So we have a smooth transition into a textural transition.
Makes sense.
So it's major contribution from both of us, and we really
Right.
enjoy when they work.
Right.
They do.
Yeah. Would you like to talk a little bit more about Consonant Passage, which
sure.
was a collaborative work by both of you?
Actually,
Want to show the maquette first?
this is a maquette. Now there are always subtle changes from a maquette to an enlargement. But we can see on the top up here, that's texture that we were talking about. And then down lower, down here, is the texture too. So, and when you do a big piece like this, 10 foot, you better have a maquette. You better have a tank.
I'm sure that's true. What kind of inspired this one? How did you come up with the ideas for this one?
Well, I don't know where Consonant comes from. Seal knows, but Passage, is visually and physically.
This is our
you can go
second
through the
collaboration.
piece.
Our first one, which is at Meadowbrook Park,
Right.
it is also an arch type piece. It's a
Right.
passage going from one thing to another. And at the time, we did Southern Passage. We had just gotten married, and I had just moved back up here from Carbondale, and so Southern refers to Carbondale, and Passage refers to, our putting it together and having a good time. So we just kind of continued that theme, that archway, doorway, passageway, portal theme in this one.
Right.
It's fun to see that piece with children around. They just love it. They swing around it, and you can actually see where it's always clean down where the
always
kids are
shiny.
at because they wrap around it.
That's great. Now, one question I did want to ask you is just how you do come up with your titles. I'm always curious how artists do that.
It's like poetry.
I'm the word person usually. You used to just number things, or just there's a piece up there titled J, just J, and I'm the word person, so I like to just get a feeling, or maybe I just like a word and it kind of feels good. I mean, some of them are very pointed, like not pointed, but really specific to this piece, and like this one was, and some of them are just neat words for neat pieces. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I see our time unfortunately is almost up, so I want to thank you again for inviting us to see your sculpture and to see your studio. It's been great talking with you.
We've enjoyed it.
Thanks so much. Thanks for watching Art Now. Our guests have been Roger Blakley and Cecilia Allen. I hope you've enjoyed watching today's show, and I hope it'll inspire you to take a look at the local art scene and to make some of your own art now.